Jessica.
Hi, friend.
How are you doing?
I'm great.
You're going headphones off?
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm curious. This is like a podcaster.
This is actually so much better.
Yeah, you know, in the live stage, I think it's a little bit better because you get a little bit more immediate feedback here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like this better.
Well, hey, thanks for joining me on the show. This is another kind of a different episode for us because we're live on stage right now, and there's like people here, and there's background noise, and usually none of that exists. Hello, people. What's going on? Typically on the show, we spend an hour, 90 minutes plus talking with people deeply about like their background, their story, how they got to where they are. But today, I want to give a little bit more tactical things for people that are in the audience to walk away with, since we're at a subscription company and since you happen to work at a decently well-known organization that has distribution all over the world. So without further ado, welcome to the show. Jessica, thanks for being here.
Well, thanks for having me on. I am Jess Cervellon. We alluded to this, but I am head of CX at FEASTABLES, a Mr. Beast brand. And if you're not familiar with who Mr. Beast is, he is the world's largest YouTube influencer and has a massive audience. And it's real fun every day.
I was going to say, it's probably, it probably doesn't even fit the bill to call him just a YouTube influencer anymore. He's like a real celebrity.
I would say it's well, interesting that you brought that up because like you're absolutely right. Like about a year and a half ago. Sorry, we're just getting into it.
No, yeah, let's do it. It's my favorite way to do it when you don't even know it started.
Right,
it's already
right.
started. Yeah.
Yeah, like about a year and a half ago, like when I did join FEASTABLES, I was like, oh, okay, you know, I'm really excited. I'm gonna go to the world's largest like creator, YouTube influencer, and I have watched his career progress into celebrity startup.
Oh yeah.
Now, you know, it's like you see him mentioned in like other places, and it's just, I don't know. I think it's just really interesting, and I also think it brings like honestly a different type of audience to
exactly.
the brand.
I was just about to say, you can tell because the demographic is continually expanding.
Yes.
It's like 5 years ago, I didn't know who Mr. Beast was, and then like 3 years ago, people 10 years older than me knew who Mr. Beast was. And now it's like, my grandpa knows who Mr. Beast is because they talk about him on like Fox Business and like CNBC and MSNBC and pretty much anywhere you turn on the news, there's Mr. Beast there doing something crazy.
Yeah.
Getting in trouble for something or doing something exciting and fun. And what's interesting to me about it is he's really one of the people that I point to as the like example for why it's important in this decade to be building a personal brand, at least in addition to your company brand. And I'm curious on what your perspective is on that, being in a personal brand driven company that is so wildly successful, built off of the back of this engine that is Mr. Beast.
Well, I think that kind of like pulls to like, honestly, even my own life, you know? Like, I don't think it's just like based on him too. So like going back to just like the brand itself, I think it's, well, okay, actually back up one more. I recall walking into an e-commerce network and I joined and I said, hey, I'm Jess, I'm head of CX at FEASTABLES. And the first comment that I got from this person was, and we're not gonna name names, he's actually one of my homies now, but he was like, wow, that's an easy acquisition. And I was like, my guy, I was like ready to throw some
round
like,
one.
Like throw some hands. Because I think it's a common misconception that yes, of course, it might be an easy acquisition with like having this, you know, creator behind your brand with like this big presence. But what really matters though is how do you retain that customer?
Yeah, exactly.
Like you can bring in that customer all day long, but the true work actually begins at retention.
Yeah.
And so going back to your question, you know, honestly, that's the simple answer is like, yes, we can acquire that customer, but we really, really have to concentrate on the retention aspect of it. And now we have expanded where we're not just in D2C anymore. We're actually in large retailers. We're in Walmart. We're now in 7-Eleven. We have D2C in the UK. Like we're expanding. That's my point, right?
Yeah.
And so my point of bringing that up is like now we have to not only think about it from like the eComm strategy, but we also have to think about it from the retail experience strategy. And I actually take a lot of that into even clients that I consult for. Again, even if you're a tiny brand and you don't have a creator behind you, you have to concentrate on the retention, because you can bring in a customer and they can say, oh, I love this cup of coffee, but your coffee is on the shelf with 5,000 other coffees.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, no, that's the core metric I'm sure that you guys are tracking inside of your business is way more about customer experience, way more about churn. Because to your point, you don't have to do the heavy lifting of spending a lot of money to acquire these customers to begin with.
Yeah.
But if the product sucks, they're not ordering the third time, and they're not coming in the fifth time, and they're not coming in the 12th time.
Right.
Right. Or if the experience sucks, or if the packaging isn't good, or if everything's melted when they open, like every step of that has to be accounted for so that you can, I guess, foster this community of already potential buyers that are kind of sitting there waiting for Mr. Beast to come out with more things so they can go give him more money.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what I pull a lot from, so like my philosophy of customer experience, just like at Feastables and any brand that I consult for, is experience should be a value of your company. That's like, that's my core of thought, right? But my career, so fun fact, and we actually haven't gotten into this.
Yeah,
this is
let's do
my
it.
first D2C company I've ever worked for in my 15 plus career in customer experience.
Wow.
My background is traditionally in SaaS.
Okay.
So I come from like a customer success, tech support, retention marketing, and like a software type of world. And so like my core values come down from building relationships. And so I apply that logic into, yes, you can, obviously in SaaS it's very important. Like, you know, if you don't have a relationship with your customer, they're not going to keep renewing with you, right? Like, that's like basic stuff, and like basic about like relationship building with your customer that you have like a water bottle on the shelf with is obviously, you know, what you think of customer experience too. But take it even one step further. So like, all right, I joined Feastables, and we can go into that story later, but I joined Feastables and I took that concept of relationship building at every single touch point that this customer interacts with. So what I mean by that is, we can acquire all day long. You come into the website, but how can I talk to you on our website?
Yeah.
And it's not just on your PDPs, it's not just on your FAQs. How can I have an always on type of conversation with you when I'm sleeping and you want to learn more about Mr. Beast, or you want to learn more about the product, or why you should purchase Feastables, right? So like enter a lot of different tactics about like digital experience, but also community building. We have a huge Discord. We have about over 17,000 people in our Discord today that are actually not even buyers. They're not all buyers. They're just loyal members to Feastables and like really enjoy Feastables. There's so many things in this.
Yeah, where did you get the signups on that? Like, how do you, what are you doing to launch a community of people that are just willing to jump in and give you feedback on how well you're doing?
So I think that a creator audience, for one, is very engaged already. So they're going to be more likely to join those audiences, but you still have to make a drive to it, right? So we did do drives in like in like our SMS campaigns or email campaigns and like various places to like drive them. But we also, on our website, we like when you have your social links, it's not just Twitter and Instagram, it's also our Discord, right? Like we talk about our Discord in multiple different places about like what's happening in that community, and we drive people to that community. And then what's really amazing that's happening with this audience is, because it ranges, I personally have met some of these people in this community. It's not just the 9-year-old boy that you think. It's actually people like my age that are parents even, right? I
mean, Mr. Beast is just on in the background for a lot of parents. So they get to know this kid, and it's funny watching the evolution, because they see, as a parent, when you see something on screen, your immediate reaction is like, another one of these things? Like, how many of these freaking people can there be that are creating these stupid videos and making money online? And it just like, you start getting in this echo chamber of adulthood, you know, and then you see Mr. Beast, and it's like, oh, he's actually like, he's not flashy. He's not out there wasting money on stupid things. He's actually just reinvesting his money into the business and then giving a ton of it away. Like, he's actually pretty responsible 24-year-old rich famous kid, which is the opposite of the narrative completely.
Well, I think also like even just going into the creator economy and like the creator world, right? Like, I think what's really interesting is not only is he driving a message of like giving back or, reinvesting and doing giveaways, whatever it is, but I see that same concept in like our community that we're building. So the people within our community, but I also see it in like children. That like, and I'll get back to the story. I'm not like interacting with children on the site. I mean like personal children that I know.
Yeah.
But I also see it with other creators. There's other creators out there that are taking that Mr. Beast concept and driving it back on like their YouTube channels,
Yes.
their giveaways, their like give backs, right? And I think it's a really interesting thing. I think it's a really awesome thing to see that it like how much impact this person can have in society, right?
Well, he's showing you that there's another way.
Yes.
Right? That he didn't go the traditional path. He did everything really non-traditional.
Yeah.
And it worked out pretty well for him, but not in the sense that he turned into like again some like internet marketing douchebag that you don't want your kids to follow online. Like he actually is a pretty. I mean, I'm sure there's stuff that happens behind the scenes. I don't know, but
no, nice dude, nice dude.
But yeah, and I've met him a couple times. Anytime I've seen him, like he seems to be the brand. He doesn't seem to be putting on a show.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, it's shown a good example for kids to follow.
Yeah.
That's non-traditional and also ended up in a good place so far, where he's actually a good example for people.
Yeah, and like going back to the community building and like customer experience and all of these things, right? Like a really interesting campaign that I actually did. I can't remember the time frame of it because when you work in a startup, I feel like 15 years. It feels like 4 months feels like 15 years.
Yeah, it's like dog years,
right?
yeah.
Like, but there was a campaign that I once did, and it was really awesome. It's all coming back to me now. Now I'm actually remembering everything. Okay, so I had one of the Teslas that we gave away, I actually went to like Utah to deliver this Tesla, and before I had gone to Utah though, I got this email from a teacher that came across my desk, and this teacher was talking about how, I played your rock, paper, scissors game. I played it with both of my classes. We have 40 students, and I really enjoy like Mr. Beast's message and FEASTABLE's message about giving back to the community. We played this rock, paper, scissors game. I won this bundle. It was really amazing. Keep up the good work. Thumbs up. And somehow this letter came across my desk, and I was like, hey man, I'm actually gonna be in Utah. So I'm gonna come to the school and see y'all, right? And I came with some of our content team. We took our Feasty mascot, and so we go to Utah. And I'm not Mr. Beast, and of course they're looking for Mr. Beast. But listen, you're getting Jess, Cervellon, CX leader. They're like, who is this chick?
Mrs. Beast.
So anyway, the point of the story though of why I'm bringing this up in community building is because what we actually did there is we did give the school. A sum of money to help them to get computers. Awesome. And whatever that they needed. But also I went to the school with these small envelopes and they said, give like a beast. And they had 5 ones in it. And I did this speech to them, and I was like, hey, listen, we're giving you guys this money, we're enjoying, thank you so much for being fans, all this stuff. I want to give each one of you guys this envelope that has 5 ones in it, and you have the choice of keeping the money for yourself or giving it away, right? And so I left these children with that choice, right? And later it turns out that more than half of them actually gave that money away to a person in need. So, but the reason I'm bringing this up is because as you build a community, and even though, yes, of course, we are attached to Mr. Beast and, it's all about the brand FEASTABLES, but I think that you can still have that ethos within your company and everything that you do, even as an individual of working for the company or mentoring other people in the company, whatever it is, whatever campaigns, could all speak to that creator's ethos as well. It's another touch point is my point of why I'm rambling on this story.
Well, you're embodying the word experience.
Yeah.
Where these kids will remember that interaction. That's I guess that's kind of one of the main points of customer experience, right? Is
yeah, dog.
Will people remember anything about this besides I bought a candy bar? What happened after that? Is there any sort of additional feelings that we can instill in them. It is like they're like, again, you tied a mission that's much bigger than these kids even understand, which is giving back to the world around them. To a candy bar. It's just a candy bar. It's just cookies, right? Like what, you know what I'm saying? But you tied it into something so much bigger that got people on board to be willing to share a message that means something to them. Just the vehicle happened to be, oh, I got a candy bar out of it or something. You know?
Well, I think it's, sorry, and we can go back to Feastables, but I also think it's actually really interesting because I've done brand experience consulting for other creator brands.
Okay.
And I actually, and this is why I was saying that I think Mr. Beast is like, has an influence on like other like influencers, right? Because I also noticed that their audience is all very similar. Like they're like, I love you, you're so awesome, thanks for like doing this. Like they're not asking for things, they're like, they want to talk to that creator and tell them that like they're also building community around them based off of like their ethos, right? Or like what they're there for. I don't know where I was going with this, but my point is that I don't think it's just singular to Mr. Beast. I think it's an overall change that we're seeing. That's my point of that, right? And then going back to what you were saying about customer experience, about, you know, it's not just support, because I will die on that fucking hill. Customer experience is literally like every touch point of your product. I mean, like I look at this coffee and I'm like, the sleeve around it, okay, I know that this is like recyclable, right? Like it's like every touch point that you have with your customer, whether digital, whether the product in hand, whether it's a community building moment, is all an experience for them, right? And like what I try to build and help other brands build is thinking about it from a relationship building aspect. And so thinking about it from a relationship building aspect, but also that what can we instill as from our values as a company into that customer, and have them like go and build communities around them, have them actually believe that if we're recycling, like they're gonna do that as well. Like, you know, you just like, it's not just support. That's my point. It's not just support. It's all about experience building at every single one of your touch points.
So when you keep using the term touch points, is this something that you track physically inside of some sort of a project management tool or software system or something? I
mean, there's plenty of things that we like track. Like my suggestion, a tactical suggestion, is to like, think about your brand, whether you're thinking about like subscriptions, whatever strategy that you want to instill a better experience in. Think like build out a journey map. And I don't mean like, oh, build out a journey map and, you know, my customer's going to buy and then they're going to go to the website. What do they do on the website? What do they touch? What is the click points that they're doing on your website? If they're going through a subscription program, what are the click points that they're doing in that subscription program? If the product is going to be fulfilled? What are like, who's touching that product, right? Like, how does that product get to them? It's like so that's how, I mean, everybody knows what a journey map is, but I'm saying like, from a tactical advice point of view, is when you're thinking about the strategy, don't think about it high level. Get so fucking granular into it that you're thinking about the experience at every single one of those touch points. That's my point about a touch point. And going back to your project management tool, my dude, do you know how many project management tools I use? There's Notion, there's Asana, there's Monday. I just use Google Docs.
Yes.
It's a hot mess express, okay?
You're giving me permission to just use Google Docs.
Dude, like, I can't do it.
There's too many software trainings now where it's just like, I just want to get this done. I don't want to take 3 hours of YouTube courses on how to use this software to get this done. I just want to get this done. Please, can somebody please just do this?
Really funny thing, real quick, because now we're talking about project management tools. I utilize a tool called Smart Sheets, and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. And I literally spent 3 hours on help docs and videos being like, I think I got this right. And I built like this really robust report that I literally don't use today. Like, why? Just Google Docs it, my dude.
Just get the job done.
You know?
Just get the job done.
Yeah, over it.
Jess, I noticed, so you have an extensive background in customer experience and software and all these other things. And then you joined Feastables in, I think, 21, right? August 2021
yes,
or somewhere
2021.
in there? Somewhere in there.
I had to think about it.
But then you started your own podcast in January of this year. I'm curious, first of all, did that have anything to do with being a part of like a creator culture? And then second of all, how's it going? How do you like it?
Yeah, so the podcast, my podcast co-host is actually in the audience right now, not paying attention, Zoe Khan. Zoe Khan. So Zoe and I did start our podcast in January 2022, and it honestly started as a joke. So Zoe and I were like in our CX Discord. If anybody's interested, hit me up. I can get you into the CX Leadership Discord. It's really awesome. There's about 800 people in there. Anyway, so it kind of started as a joke. Is like, you know, Zoe was rapping about like, oh man, I wrote this email campaign and I messed up, oopsie. And we started this oopsie channel. And then Zoe and I, we were like, had these like weekly conversations just about CX stuff, retention, like whatever was on our mind. And she's actually a content creator. And fun fact, you guys might think I'm an extrovert, but I'm actually an introvert. So extroverted introvert over here. And she pushed me to do a podcast and I was like, all right, dude, nobody's going to listen to this, but okay, let's go, right? And I bought a microphone, I did the jams, like whatever. And then I actually became so addicted to creating the content. Like, I love it now. I love it. But the one point that I want to like make about it of telling you this whole story is like, I didn't walk into doing this podcast being like, oh yeah, like I'm going to be a content creator. I watched this podcast being like, I'm so scared that people are going to hate me in this world. And I can't believe I'm putting myself out here. And like, literally when we first aired, I was so hesitant to even talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, but it's so scary getting out in the world.
I was going to say, welcome to being a creator.
Yeah, right? And I don't think it came from honestly working at FEASTABLES. I think it just like came from like being pushed over the ledge and being like, hey, you got something to talk about? You should go talk about it. And that's how I have a podcast now.
So now it's been like 18 months?
The podcast?
Yeah.
No. Oh yeah, it feels like 18 months.
So it was 2023 then?
2023.
Okay,
yes.
gotcha. I thought you said 2022.
I did say 2023. Thanks for catching me.
No,
see? Exactly my
Oopsie.
point.
Yeah.
Oopsie. But anyway, yeah, it's only been since January, and it's been really awesome. We're actually filming season 3 right now because we're going to in real life experiences rather than virtual.
Okay.
So,
great.
Yeah, it's a really dope experience. That's like one of the many things that I do.
Yeah. One of just a couple of things. It's not like you're responsible for anything.
I'm a psychopath.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
Aren't we all? You know,
Yeah.
if you're here at an entrepreneurship type of conference, like we're all a little
We're
bit.
psychopaths, yeah.
There's something wrong with us. Yeah.
Yeah. And I never thought that like this was honestly where my world would be. Like, guys, I went to art school. So granted, like, yes, a creator, but I went to art school. And then when I graduated art school, I was like, I don't want anything to do with this. And then worked at a bank. I was like, I'm going to work at a bank today. And I worked at a bank. Then I worked in the travel industry. So, like, I know really all the airport codes on this planet. And it's really weird. And everything about airlines. But I worked in the travel industry. And then I got an opportunity to work in a startup. A travel and expense startup.
Okay.
And I've always like worked in customer experience, right? Like, but like service, support, success, like that's what I was like mentioning. And then I got a chance to work in my first startup in 2016. And that's when I became a psychopath.
Yeah.
Because FEASTABLES is actually my 5th startup that I've worked at this
Oh,
point.
really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
so you kind of got addicted to the startup culture a little bit?
Yeah. I've like lived through an acquisition. I've lived through a pre-IPO. I've lived through a failure. I've lived through every moment of like
fast-paced, quick-hitting environments is kind of your thing.
Yeah, that's why I'm a psycho. Yeah, literally. This is like, and I love it. I'm so addicted to it now. It's so messed up.
How have you thought through customer experience when it comes to like content creation in terms of maybe your podcast or podcasting in general, YouTube? Because that's a whole nother world, right? Like listener experience or consumer experience is pretty much the same thing as customer experience. They just haven't paid you yet. Yeah,
fair. I kind of think, I mean, listen, we think about experience from like a, you know, okay, let's give the audience this experience and like let's talk to them or whatnot. But like when I'm recording, I try to be really conscious of the audience for sure. But I also try to be really authentic because like I'm not trying to come up here, y'all. This is why I curse. This is why I'm like 100% who I am because like I don't want to come up here and be like this robot of like, hey, my name's Jess. I hope you like what I talk about. Like, I don't want to do that. That sounds so boring to me, right? So, like, I think about it in an experience point of view of like, all right, if I'm creating content, I want to be 100% like who I am.
Have to be.
And then I just like, I hope you like it. But honestly, if you don't, yeah, like honestly, if you don't, there's going to be like 5 other people out there that will. And it's like, but I do try to create content that's like funny or, that is like worthwhile, but I'm not trying to like, do a podcast that's like, hey, let's talk about your ROAS.
Yeah,
I'm trying to talk about like, what did you live, laugh, and learn about?
Sure.
And like, carry that on.
There's a fine line between value and entertainment.
Yeah.
That you kind of have to walk a little bit. Because those are the best shows to me, are the ones that have like some sort of mixture of those things rather than like pure education or pure entertainment. Like my favorite shows are the ones where it's like, I know I'm going to listen, I'm going to grab something, I'm going to learn something, I'm going to get something that I can apply somewhere in my life. But also, it's not like watching paint dry.
Right.
Where it's like, well, got to get my education in for the day. Guess I better listen to this stupid podcast and turn it on. And then as soon as you get something, you're like, all right, music, something to entertain me again.
So, but the thing is like you end up losing the audience's attention so quickly, right? Because they're only gonna listen so much, right? So the other side of it too is like you can sit there and you can record an hour podcast, but the real kicker is like promote it on socials, like get social clips of the hooks that you want people to actually look at, and that's what's going to draw them in. I mean, fun fact, like Zoe and I have like more social views than anything else on our social clips because we look at it from like a hook point of view and then put that out into the world, right?
You're describing the number one reason why I tell everybody to start a podcast. Well, number 2 reason, I should say. Number 1 reason why I tell businesses that they should start a podcast is for what you're talking about. I describe it as our content engine. Everything that we put out, we post several times a day on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. We post everywhere. 90% of it comes from stuff from the podcast. So it makes our entire content creation schedule is record podcast.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then my media team takes that and they chop it up and throw it across social media for an entire like 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
And now we're putting out content that's like chopped up, mixed up, like let's take this piece from this clip, this piece from this clip, put those together.
Yeah.
And these are this is like we've been doing the podcast for almost 6 years. We have almost 900 episodes.
Wow.
Like we have so many things to pull from and choose from, and it's all so good. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's just like we record here, and it's our entire content strategy just to have the podcast. In fact, we actually did a episode on this recently because Mr. Beast was saying this exact same thing, was basically saying like one way to fill your entire content calendar is just to go be a guest on podcasts and pull the clips, because the clips themselves are going to get an insane amount of impressions across all social media, even if the podcast itself isn't a large podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's where we like honestly spend more of our time in. Like our team like does do like our social clips and like some copywriting for us. I mean, like really like, so everything that I'm doing with my podcast is like either before work or after work, right? But like Zoe and I like really just bust our ass and like get all of our podcasts like out there, and or like we record our episodes and get them done. Like so, we're going to Austin tonight to record like 7 episodes between Friday and Saturday. So it's really funny though, because people think like, oh, like how do you find time? And I was like, dogs, I literally just pre-record all of this stuff, and then I spend the time worrying about like the social content and like getting the clips from it, and that's how I like go out and do the promotion. That's what takes like, I wouldn't say the longest time, but the strategy. The actual recording is not the strategy of it.
Right.
It's literally the strategy of what your social media is going to be.
Yeah, it's a lot less heavy lifting than people think it's going to be, because of the ability to batch.
Yeah.
It's just like my favorite thing. When we rebranded and relaunched my show from Build Your Network to Travis Makes Friends at the beginning of this year.
Are we friends now?
We sure are.
Oh,
I mean,
thanks.
I hope. Are we friends?
Yeah, dog. You got to follow me on LinkedIn, though.
Yeah, okay.
And Twitter.
Okay, will do. So the show's called Travis Makes Friends for this exact reason, because that's one of the reasons I do the show. And when we relaunched in January, we had content scheduled out all the way through April.
Yeah.
And it was 2 episodes a week, I think. But I busted my tail in December and a little bit in January. And by the time we hit the launch button, it was like all we had to focus on was launch promo and episode promo.
Yeah.
And it was like, it becomes a lot easier when you're not worried about, oh, shoot, I have to record an episode for next week.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the last point. I know, I don't know where we are on time, but like that was the last thing that I wanted to say though, is like, you know, I remember when we first started, we were so stressed out about like having to record and like this schedule. And we were doing this rigorous schedule of like 6 a.m. recordings or 6 p.m. recordings and then Saturdays.
Yeah.
And then Zoe and I were like, why are we doing this to ourselves? Like, just go bust it out and like, and you know, and then create like the content, right?
Yep.
And listen, this is like honestly a living and learning moment because we knew nothing about it.
Yeah.
We're just figuring it out as we go. Like nobody has the answers. Like you might have 900 episodes and I don't even know where we are in episodes anymore, but it's like 30, right? And I'm like, our pathways are still very similar because you're just learning as you go, you know?
Yep. Yeah, even with interviews, I used to do like 6 to 8 interviews in a day.
Yeah.
But it was my entire interview schedule for the month.
Yeah.
It was just like I would just my calendar link was only allow people to book on this one day, and then I would record. I think it was the first Wednesday of every month. I would have 6 to 8 interviews, and I would knock out my entire months of interviews, which are more difficult to schedule. For the entire month. So, you know, think it can be done. And to me, it's like the best way to deliver content to your audience because you're hitting all the touch points. You have a long form, but from long form, you can take medium form and you can take short form and you can distribute it everywhere. I mean, I wish we had more time to talk because I would like to get more tactical about the customer experience side of FEASTABLES. But since we don't have that much time, maybe we can do a part 2 sometime on Zoom or something. But I appreciate you coming on the show, Jess. For anybody listening or watching right now, where can people go to learn a little bit more about you and everything that you got going on? Yeah,
so you can find me at jesscervellon.com. I have my own website.
Look at you.
Listen, went to art school. I'm also on LinkedIn, and you can also find me on Mentor Pass. Those are like the main 3 channels.
And the podcast.
Oh, and my podcast, but my website directly links to the podcast and vice versa. So
there you go.
Don't worry.
There
Traffic, conversions over here. Anyway, jesscervellon.com, Mentor Pass, or LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, Jess, thanks so much for coming on the show today. I had a blast chatting with you, and maybe we'll get a part 2 sometime.
Thanks, bestie.
Yeah, of course.